Hello everybody, and I know that it's kind of late, but I do my videos late so then they can be heard properly, I guess. This is aromatherapy extraction. This is how we get the oils the way that we get them, etc. This is a reminder to seek your doctor's advice before using essential oils, especially with any medication or other holistic products. Any health issues, because they can react in various ways. So please do not put them on the skin unless you know they are absolutely safe. It's always best to seek medical advice before doing so. So when we talk about the distilling or the distillation extraction of oils, this is the kind of machine that we would be looking at. So the essence would come out one way. This, one pipe would cool things down, the other, where the flowers etc. would warm things up, and then you'd have your drain tap, your condensing water. As you can see, all kind of fits as a system to be able to work through the herbs, whatever, and extract the oil through the steam, because essentially that's what you're doing. The oils are coming out of the plant, but they're going into the steam and they're going back into cool, then you see. Now once they hit cool, water and oil are a completely different density, so you'll be left with obviously just water, but the oil will either stay on top or it will float to the bottom. That's how you get your pure essential oil. See? And this method is the most common method. This is done via, if you can see the fire, the heating, and heats it all up. It's on a tray, and then the steam would go up and across. Then it would cool down and separate the particles going where it needed to go. Obviously here now they have special fires for it, so it wouldn't be set up like this anymore, but that's just to say, well, now they are kind of like the previous picture, but remember, it's grown since then, so things have changed. There used to be fire pits underneath. So if we're looking at extracting, the first thing you would do is you would make sure that you prepared everything that needed to be prepared. Now, if it's wood with fibrous parts, or anything with fibrous parts and that are going to be thicker, like wood seeds, fruit, they've got to be grated, chopped, crushed, ground, as much as possible. That starts the plant cells breaking down, releasing the oil already, so that when the heat is added and the raw material is placed on a grid over water, obviously it's going to heat them up and it's going to cause steam. The steam then will go through the plant and directly distill from the raw plant into the tubes. Some of them are, yeah. What this is basically saying is direct distillation of a raw plant. That would be placed in the water, and the water would be brought to a boiling point, but it would be exactly the same process. It's just that some you'll have on a grid, others you'll have in the water. Either way, it's going to boil and extract through steam. So once it's in the steam, this is when your evaporation wants to take place. The oil cells will release their essence. The oil will evaporate into the steam. Steam will collect it to condense it. So it's there now, steam and vapour, so it's kind of a mixture of oil and water, I guess. And it collects in the pipe and is transported to the condenser, which usually is a coil pipe immersed in cold water. Now, as soon as that hot vapour and steam come into contact with the cold pipe, they're going to begin to condense. They're going to turn back into liquids, and that's your collection. So, steam condenses, becoming aromatic water. The oil will either float to the top of the liquefied steam or to the bottom. It kind of depends on what the oil is and how you're collecting it. I know one goes up, one goes. It depends. There's two different distillation methods, and there's another one that's exactly like this, but it's kind of the opposite way around, but does exactly the same basically. But either way, it will separate the oil from the water, but with the water you'll still get what's known as your aromatic water, so like your orange flower water, your rose water, things like that. But yet, believe it or not, it is still classed as your essential oils. Now, this is just to explain that obviously there are 5 stages to a distillation, and they separate due to the densities of the water and the oil being completely different. Now, expressing oils is the way to get pure essential oils, but it's a different way. So instead of using the heat and the steam, you're going to get it at its purest form. So like olive oil, your extra virgin olive oil comes at its purest form because it gets expressed. So it's not steam distilled, it's heat's not applied, it's just expressed. So it's mainly for citrus fruits, because they are contained in tiny sacs in the fruit peel. So the application of pressure will remove, obviously, the pith and pulp, but then the skin can be squeezed to release the oil, and expression can be done by hand. But obviously, it works really well that way. But they do that, collect the oil in sponges. Now there's so much demand for oils that it's done by a machine that does it in a large amount. And it's like when you've got your orange and you take your orange peel. Now, your hands, that residue that goes on your hands, there's your oil. Your oil is in there. You can actually cold compress it out on most citrus fruits peel. Now, this way of heating things up, and it's done the same way, but with this, it's to get your different benzoins. It's also done with sunflowers as well, and it's the raw materials obviously chopped up, put on a rack in a clean vessel, but solvents are added. So you've got your hydrocarbons, your benzoins, your hexanes, or even alcohol, and the mixture is heated gently so that the oils in probably wood, like your sandalwood and things, dissolve into the solvent. Then it's filtered. They'll take the solvent out, they'll let it evaporate, but take out, the solid residue and any solvent that's left. And this becomes sort of like concreted. So when you look at your resin, like your gums from your trees, things like that, It's done the same way, except solvents are added. Never touch an absolute, guys. Don't touch an absolute, because they can be extremely dangerous. They can put artificial things in there which can change the chemical constituents. It really is best to stay away. So this is what I meant by a solvent extraction. You can read this for yourself if you want. The reason it's done is because it is usually taking, the benzoid, myrrh, frankincense directly from inside the tree bark. So it is more hard. It's more like a gum, and it's got dirt in it and fibrous materials. So that way, solvents used, like your alcohol and whatnot, to separate it so that you can extract resinoid in the stages rather than it being damaged through the other process. Obviously, the only difference is that the solvent's added. The extraction method still, it's still done the same way. It's still heated, and the end product's slightly different because obviously it's compact and more like a gum. Now with your steam, it's always going to be mixed with water, and it's the heat then that produces the steam, or the steam under pressure will pass through the plant material. The heat and the steam will cause the plant material to break down, evaporating into the steam. Oil and steam becomes mixed, then it passes into the cool pipe and condenses back to liquid. And it really is that simple for all those processes except your expression where you can just squeeze the oil out. It's the same. The difference is with your benzoins and such, a solvent has to be added because it's coming out with a gum, a concrete, rather than an oil. It's in gum form. Now, these are the other ways, but yeah, hydrodiffusion. It's a boiling water, and it's very similar to distillation, actually, and the steam distillation is done regardless in those anyway. With the solvent, without a solvent, it doesn't matter, it's still steam, steam's still used to do it. But this is a more expensive way. It's set up slightly different, it's faster, so less damage is done to the oil with it being quicker, which means you're getting a more purer, end product. Your enfleurage and your maceration now, they're not really used as much today because of the hard labour, The use of animal fat as well is used in both. For flowers, it's a very long process, having to leave the flowers in the animal fat, like your jasmine and your rose oil, for so many days now. It used to be done on trays, and it used to be hand done. And they would, get the flowers, they would layer the animal fat in the tray, layer the petals, and carry on going so they were stacked up. Obviously, things are usually done by machine now. You might still get some people that hand do it, but I'm pretty, more than likely there will be a machine that does it. But that's when you're looking at your really nice jasmine and your really nice rose oils, Now, every distillation process is steam distillation, and that's one thing to remember. So it's always going to be place it in, whether it be in the water, whether it be on the tray. And it's always going to have heat applied, and it's always going to be produced by steam. It just depends if it's done with a solvent or not. Your solvents usually get your gums, and then what happens is, once you've got that gum, you can then put it back through again, distilling it with the solvent, and then again it'll break it down again, some more. That has been done. So when you get these blocks of your gum, your resin, that's how it's done. It's still gone through a process. It's had to come out of the bark, and it's had to be, you know, set in a certain way so that you can get it in the end. And regardless of the way you look at it, other than being able to express by squeezing out the oils, it's usually a distillation for, you know, it's done. It's steam, it's solvent. I mean, there is other ways that involve chemicals, and honestly, I would not advise that at all. Chemicals would be a big no-no for me, because they're just gonna cause problems to the skin, reactions that we don't know. But if you look, it's all the same, even though, you know, this will be solvent distillation, normal steam distillation expressing. It's only the cold expression that's different, because you can just squeeze it out. The rest of the steam distillation is more or less the same, other than sometimes solvents added when it's your benzoins and your frankincense and your myrrh and things, your sandalwood, your cedarwood, all that will be solvent, with the rest of the steam. So obviously it doesn't make that much of a difference other than the solvent aspect. Yeah, absolute, just completely ignore them, because if you read the back, actually, and I'll learn you how to do this, but it will tell you what percentage of pure essential oils in there, and you will be shocked at, you may have, let's say you have a 10ml bottle, and in that 10ml bottle you might be looking at 0.02%. That's bad. It means the rest in there is not, it's not going to be any good. Not just therapeutic wise, but it could cause some severe reactions. So always stay away from any Absolute. I really would. I know people do still buy them and such, but I personally wouldn't go near them. I don't trust them, so yeah. And that's basically the ways to extract, and like I said, they're very similar anyway. You know, heat's used, steamed used, it's a distillation machine, it's just whether a solvent or not's added, depending on the actual product that you want at the end. So that's how we get our oils. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I do hope that you enjoy it. Love and light, and blessed be.